Growing your own food can be very enjoyable and it can be very rewarding as well. But sometimes it can take a lot of patience. Sometimes it takes seemingly forever to get your first harvests, whether you're a beginner or a more experienced gardener. Sometimes we can get quite impatient waiting for them first harvests. So I've put together this video going over 5 crops plus 1 bonus crop which can give you harvests really fast. Some of these can be harvested in as little as 4 weeks. So today we're going to be going over fast food, but not the bad kind of fast food. We're going to be going over fast growing vegetables, the good kind of fast food that can give us harvests really quickly. These crops will give you some quick wins early on when not much else is really being harvested, so it'll keep you going whilst you're waiting for everything else. And it's good to have something to harvest early on, isn't it? It keeps us happy and keeps us going whilst we're waiting for everything else. So the first crop which can give us harvests very fast, especially if you harvest them as baby leaves, is lettuce leaves. Now I've got this mixed packet of lettuce leaves here which I grow every single year. They're absolutely fantastic. I've got some spicy lettuce leaves there as well. Now lettuce can germinate in temperatures as low as 1 degree Celsius, which is, it's pretty cold, isn't it? They can germinate really well in cold temperatures, whether you start them off under cover and then plant them out after, or you can even be direct sowing these outside early in the season, and they'll give you a harvest in as little as 4 to 6 weeks. Like I said, if you harvest them as baby leaves, you can be harvesting them much earlier. Even if you're waiting for the lettuce to grow to a full size, a full head of lettuce, it can be ready in under 2 months. In the spring, lettuce grows really well. You can be harvesting leaves for many weeks to come as well. If you just come along and pick a few leaves when you need them, the harvest will go on for quite a few weeks. You can even successionally sow lettuce as well. If you sow a few every few weeks, the harvest can you can really extend the harvest for quite a while. So lettuce is the first one. Many different types of lettuce you can grow. They all grow really fast. Now the second one is something closely related to the lettuce. It's a leaf, and that is spinach. Whether it's traditional spinach or perpetual spinach, which is basically a different type of spinach that's less likely to bolt, you can be sowing some spinach and getting harvests in as little as a month or 2. They're a really fast growing crop and really good for successionally sowing as well. A super healthy food. It's a fast food because it grows fast, but it's a very healthy one, rich in all sorts of different nutrients. It's a real superfood. We eat spinach weekly. I like to grow a bit on the plot every year as well because it's super easy to grow. The only thing to watch out for with lettuce and spinach, of course, is the slugs. Those are going to be the real problems. They're relatively easy to grow. The main problem is going to be the slugs. But spinach, super fast growing thing. It can even grow through the winter as well, as it's quite cold hardy, just like the lettuce. So if you've just taken on a new allotment or a new garden, get some lettuce sown, get some spinach sown, and you'll get some real quick wins with that. Now the next one is spring onions. I've got a few different types of spring onion here. I've got these white ones, but I've also got these red ones as well. Look at those. I might sow a few of them this year. They look quite interesting. White Lisbon are a good one. They're a winter hardy variety as well, so they can actually be grown in the winter. If you choose to sow some late summer into autumn, you can overwinter them and then get a crop later on, late winter, spring. But yeah, spring onions, they grow super fast. You can be sowing them in March and April and harvesting them in May and in June. They only take around 8 weeks roughly to start giving you some crops, and you can successionally sow these as well. So you could sow a couple of rows of spring onions in March and then sow a couple more rows in April, and then again in May and June if you want to do that for a steady harvest. And you can be sowing these in containers if you want. It's ideal for sowing in containers, and you can be sowing them outside wherever you want as well. There's lots of different options that you've got. In fact, everything on this list can be sown in containers. Spring onions are absolutely fantastic. Whilst you're waiting for your main onions, like your bulb onions to grow, you can be harvesting these weeks, if not months earlier than those. So those are a good one to give you some quick harvests in the spring. Now the next one is one of my absolute favourites to grow, and these did fantastic for me last year. And they were one of the first crops to be harvested in the springtime because they do grow surprisingly fast. Now you probably won't hear that many gardeners talking about these as fast growing crops, but I'm going to go against that and say that they do actually grow surprisingly fast. I'm not going to leave you waiting too long, I'm just going to tell you what they are. It's beetroot. Beetroot are absolutely fantastic, and your own homegrown, home-cooked, fresh beetroot really is unlike anything you'd get in the supermarket. It's a completely different world to the pickled stuff that you get in the jars. And honestly, if you've never grown beetroot before and cooked it yourself, I'm telling you now that you've not tasted anything quite like this before now. So yeah, they are fantastic. I've got Boltardy, which is a variety that's less likely to bolt and try and produce seed, giving you better beetroot. And Boldor, which is a golden one. That's a very interesting, very delicious variety. Now beetroot can be harvested in around 2 months or so. They may take a little bit longer than the spring onions and the lettuce, but they still are a relatively fast growing crop, and they will give you harvests before most of the other things that you're growing. You know, they're much faster than some other things. Like there are some crops like tomatoes, for example, which take like 4, 5, 6 months to give you a crop. But things like this, beetroot, will give you a harvest much earlier than that. And you'll get harvests even earlier if you grow them under cover, like inside a greenhouse. Maybe if you start them off in modules and then plant them out later, you'll get a few weeks head start and you'll get a harvest much earlier. That's another thing to think about. You will get a harvest much earlier if you grow things under cover, or if you start them off under cover and then transplant them afterwards. No matter what you're growing, you will get a harvest. No matter what you're growing, you will get a harvest earlier if you do that. So I just want to put that one in there as well. It's well worth growing stuff under cover for a head start. Okay, so the next one is a crop which you've probably heard a lot of people talk about because it is probably the fastest growing crop in the world. Well, it's probably one of the fastest growing crops in the world, arguably the fastest growing crop. And it, of course, is radish. Radish is absolutely fantastic for giving you earlier crops. If you sow these in spring, I can guarantee you with almost 100% certainty that these will be the first thing to be harvested. So they're really good for harvesting whilst you're patiently waiting for everything else. You can sow them in containers, you can sow them outside, wherever you want. You could actually sow them in modules if you want, and actually just grow them in these and harvest them in these as well if you wanted to. Sow a few of them in a container, and because they're going to be harvested quick, it doesn't really matter. Radish can be ready in as little as 4 weeks from sowing, which is absolutely crazy. So if you were to sow some in March, April, May, June, July, August, September, and possibly even October, because they probably will grow in October, you could be getting 8 harvests in one season. That's if you grow from March till October. I mean, you could probably sow some in February as well if you wanted, maybe even November if you really push it and grow them under cover. So, you know, that is a lot of harvests. There aren't that many other crops that can give you that many harvests in one season. I can't think of many more. You know, there are certain crops that you might be able to get 2, 3, 4 harvests in one season out of, but not as many as radish. So those are an absolutely fantastic one for getting some quick harvests of lovely crisp roots to slice up and stick in your salads in the summer. So that is 5 crops which will give you harvests in as little as 4 weeks. But there's one bonus crop which I'm going to go over as well, which in my opinion is an absolute staple crop. I could not go without growing these on my allotment because they are one of my absolute favourites to grow. Now, it's potatoes. And you might be thinking, potatoes don't grow that fast. And not always, no. I mean, main crop potatoes don't really grow that fast. If you plant your main crop potatoes in March, you might be harvesting them in July, maybe. But more realistically, it's going to be August or September for the big potatoes. But I'm talking about first and second early potatoes. These can be started off in March or even April and harvested in as little as 10 to 15 weeks roughly, depending on the variety, but much quicker than main crop potatoes. I've harvested potatoes in May before now, and they've been a pretty good size as well. You could also start them off even earlier than March if you wanted to. You could start them off in these containers if you wanted to. Keep them in a polytunnel or a greenhouse if you have one. Maybe you don't. I mean, I appreciate that not everyone has that. But still, you can start them off earlier than March so long as you keep them protected from the frost. Stick some horticultural fleece over them perhaps to keep them protected early on. But if you do have a greenhouse or a polytunnel and you want to start them off early, you know, you can start them off in these 30-litre buckets or similar for a head start, and then a little bit later, March, April, when things start to warm up a bit, move them outside and you'll get a good head start. I've done this before now, where I've planted first and second early potatoes in February and I've got a harvest in May, and it's been fantastic. So yeah, it's not the fastest growing crop, but in my opinion, you know, it's definitely a crop that gives you harvests whilst you're still waiting for most of your other crops. So I wanted to include that one. I'm growing shallots and kestrel potatoes this year, second early potatoes, so they'll be harvested a bit earlier than your main crops. I grow my potatoes in them buckets, as I showed you before, these, and they do really well in here. Without going off on a tangent too much, I'm just going to quickly explain why I grow them in buckets. Well, firstly, I've got more versatility. You know, I've got the flexibility of moving the buckets around the garden if I want. They're much easier to harvest. I don't have to dig the soil and potentially miss potatoes, which will just sprout in the beds again next year. So I'm going to be getting all the potatoes out that I plant. I also get cleaner potatoes as well. I don't have as much slug damage or wireworm damage that I was getting in the ground. One year I grew potatoes in the open ground, and the entire bed had wireworm damage. All the potatoes were just riddled with holes. Since then I've grown my potatoes in buckets and 99% of them have been clean. And also they warm up quicker as well. This black plastic here absorbs the heat of the sun and they warm up much quicker. I plant 2 main crop seed potatoes in each bucket. And then I usually do about 4 if they're first and second earlies, because they're harvested smaller. Okay, so we're not going to go any more into potatoes. That is one that can be harvested relatively quickly. So that was just a quick one today, guys, just a fun one really. I wanted to get that video made because I know some people can be quite impatient. I know I can be impatient sometimes, and sometimes gardening can, you know, it can seem like nothing's really moving, especially through March, April and May when we're not really harvesting much and we're doing lots of work. It can make us feel a bit despondent sometimes, and you know, it can knock our motivation down a little bit. So it's good to have something to focus on and something to reward us whilst we're waiting for the rest of the things to grow. So that's all for now, guys. thanks for watching. If you liked the video, remember to smash the like button. And if you want to see more videos like this through this entire growing season, there's going to be so much content coming on the channel around allotment growing, or just growing vegetables in general. I'm not just focusing on allotment growing, this is just a general gardening topic as well. So it doesn't matter if you have a garden or an allotment or a farm or a balcony garden, or if you just grow things on your windowsill, it doesn't matter. There's going to be content on this channel to hopefully help you out in some way. So that's all for now. I'll see you in the next one. Happy gardening and stay safe as always.